And if I could invite our next speaker up to the stand, and it's Eline van Onselen, who's from the rich North Sea in the Netherlands. She's going to speak to us about nature-inclusive design applications. Thank you, Eline.
Thank you. Is this thing working? Yes. Yes. So I can walk around. Yay. Okay. Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor to be here, and thank you all for such interesting talks already. My name is Eline. I'm working for the Rich North Sea, which is a program funded by the Dutch Postal Code Lottery in 2019. And we've been looking at opportunities for nature and offshore wind farms. But today I'm not going to talk about those projects. I'm going to talk about the future and what's holding us back to really go for scale. But let's look at this not from a human perspective, but from a natural perspective as much as possible. Because why are we doing this? We're doing it for them, right? And in the end, maybe it will help us a little bit as well. And I know you've seen these kinds of pictures a lot, probably. But for me, it really brings home the message of what we're doing and why we're doing it. Because we as humans have really changed the natural environment. And we haven't just taken a little bit, we have completely changed it. And pictures like this, I'm not saying we have to go back to a situation like it was in, I don't know, 1700, but it can inspire us and it can give us a sense of opportunity of what nature is capable of and what it can look like. And this one I want to rub in a little bit, that flat oyster habitats in the Dutch North Sea, they have officially collapsed. And that's something that makes me really sad because it has so much potential. And if we can pool our resources, we could restore habitats like this. Because that's what we need. We need to bend the curve because we're not going in the right direction. And it's easy to have a discussion about this. I know just a couple of days before in the Netherlands there was an article published by fishermen and they said, well, it's not that bad, right? We see species returning, we see populations increasing. And yeah, it's true, seals are coming back, for example. They're doing well. But there are still a lot of species that are not doing well, right? And those species are the species that we're not monitoring well. And okay, some species are doing better than they were before, but before they were practically extinct, right? So they're doing better, but they're not out of the danger zone yet. So we need to go up. And we think that structures in the marine environment can help, but they're not the holy grail. Because there are also negative effects, right? And we are working in a degraded system. So if you want to add more pressure, you're going to have to take pressure away somewhere else. So we are focusing on the opportunities part, but we shouldn't forget the other parts, right? The negative effects that we are certain are there, and the risks. And these are potential negative effects that we're not certain about yet, but we know that they might be there. So it's not enough to just focus on those opportunities. We have to see if we want to put on more pressure on the system, where we can take away that pressure as well. And that's why we always say, focus on marine protected areas, because there should be large protected areas where nature can take its course. But now, if we look at those opportunities and we want to use nature-inclusive designs, and we want to make use of the space that offshore wind farms offer us, why aren't we thinking bigger? What's holding us back? Why aren't all the new wind farms nature-inclusive? Why aren't we building with nature? And these are some things that we in our project have come across that is holding us back. And this is from a Dutch perspective. So maybe you don't recognize it, but I think a lot of it can be the same in the UK as well. So we start with the shifting baseline. And I think this one is really important because we all see this happening. The fishermen, they say, well, the fish stocks are doing better. Yeah, they're doing better than 1980 when they were practically collapsed. And also, if we go back 100 years or 200 years, it's completely different, and we just don't remember it. And I can really lose myself in books like this. This is the fish book, Het Visboek, by Adriaan Koenen. It's from the 16th century, and he describes whales migrating along the Dutch coast. And this is something that we can't even imagine anymore. And it was normal, right? People would go there and watch the whales swim by. And if we look at our current policy, it's based on the degraded system. And we have really strict goals that are not really where I would like to go. And again, I'm not saying I want to go back in time, but I want us to look at the potential of the system, and that can really help us to look at the potential. So the shifting baseline. Multi-use. And this is something that a lot of people think we should focus on, but we think that multi-use is also holding us back. Because in an offshore wind farm, right, we have this area where in the Netherlands you cannot fish, right? You cannot extract sand. There's no other activities you can do. So it offers space. So you could maybe do some nature restoration there. But if you open it up for multi-use, so maybe passive fisheries, maybe other forms of renewable energy, this would hold me back to place my nature restoration project there. Because if there's going to be fishing right next to it, why even bother, right? And it's not only inside the offshore wind farm, it's also outside of it, because the North Sea is such a busy area. Where are the places we can actually do nature restoration? We're really trying to put everything on top of each other, and the simple thing is, you cannot do everything everywhere all at once. There simply isn't enough space, so we have to make really strict decisions here. The policy we're working with is made for industry. It's not made for nature restoration. And I can give you a few examples. I was also talking about this yesterday with a few of you. For example, if we want to do oyster restoration, and we're working with living oysters, we need a fishery permit. And we're not taking them out, we're putting them back in, but just the fact that we're working with living animals, we need the permit. And if we're then working in a marine protected area, because we don't want them to be fished out again, we cannot get the permit, because it's a fishery permit and you're working in a marine protected area. So that's really holding us back. Another short example, we wanted to place artificial reefs next to a platform. And there was this decision of, I don't even remember the name, it was a decision that was somewhere deep, deep in our policy. And it was made because they wanted to have the least amount of shipping vessels going back and forth towards the platform, which is good because then you have less carbon, right? But then we wanted to place something there, but we couldn't because there would be a ship having to travel there, install it, and then traveling back. Oh, these are my examples. I'll skip it. And then there's our capitalistic approach. When I talk about nature restoration and nature enhancement, people always ask me, but what is your business case? And I'm always a little bit offended because why do I need a business case, right? We all love nature. Can't we just appreciate it for what it is, for its intrinsic value? But our system doesn't work that way, right? So we have people putting labels on nature and calculating what it's worth, what tourism is worth, what an oyster would be worth, or an oyster reef. And it has its uses. You can reach certain people, but I think it can also really be a downfall if you have to calculate the worth of everything and not just appreciate it for its natural value. Because we also then have the risk of undervaluing things. And that's a high risk, because you can really be pushed in a different direction than where we want to go. I'll speed up. And then we have this short-term thinking, which right now we're in the middle of really short-term political cycles. Our politics are really, really short-term. And if we want true nature restoration, we have to think long-term. And 4 years is not long-term. We have to think 20 years, 40 years, and maybe even longer, if we want to restore habitats like natural reefs, for example. And then we're also working with climate change, of course. And our goals, even if we're thinking up to 2030, it's not that far away anymore. We have to think way, way, way beyond that. And then the system that we're working with is pretty much inflexible, and it's very slow. So if you want to change things, if you want to apply for grants, for example, it'll take you 2 years. And that's pretty fast. And if you want to change policy, to change that, it's going to take even longer. I think I'm going to skip this because my time is already over, but come to me and I will chat to you about it. And this is where we put in nature into the procedure for offshore wind. So we put it in the tendering procedure, in the site decisions, and that's a way to think about, well, scaling up a little bit. And then I want to show you this short video.
Nature enhancements.
Why?
To build with nature, not against it. Got a wind farm? You can have a sea sanctuary. Laying cables? Turn them into reefs. Got some extra room? Invite some fish. Be a leader in offshore energy and make your business better. For everyone, visit the toolbox today.
So if you want to know more about our projects and other people's projects who are also working with nature-inclusive designs, visit the toolbox, because there's so much information and so many projects already there. And if you haven't seen the ocean film, go watch it, because it's incredibly good. Thank you so much.